Welcome back to r/Neighbors from Hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, "Entitled Neighbor Sneaks on Property and Cuts Down Old Oak Tree to Have a Better View." So this is a story of when I was a child and was living at my parents' house. For context, my parents and I live in France and they bought some land 25 years ago. Now the land plot was located on a hill and had an incredible view of the Mont Blanc. At that time we just had one neighbor and our house was quickly constructed. A few years later the area became quite popular and all the available plots on the hill were bought and constructed. Now when I was about 14 or 15 years old we already knew that one of our neighbors, EN, was a piece of work. I only remember that she was super weird, like walking naked in their driveway that was right below my window, but I cannot recall much more. One day EN comes by our house and asks to talk to my dad. She said that she is hiring a gardener to clean up the bushes on her side of her property and is asking nicely if said gardener can trim some of our tree branches that are crossing to her side. No problem, as in France it is expected to cut the branches that are bridging to your neighbor's side. My dad offers to do it himself, but EN insists that it is best if her gardener does it. EN and dad agree. A few weeks and days later we go on vacation and forget a little bit about the whole ordeal. Well, you can already guess that we came home to a big surprise. It turns out that trimming does not mean the same thing to some of the entitled neighbors out there. A whole tree was missing, like a big whole tree. We decided to keep our calm and to go to EN's house to hear what she has to say for her defense. Guys, this EN told her gardener to cut down our old oak tree so that she can have a better view on the Mont Blanc. She even acted shocked to learn that was an oak tree and tried to explain to us that the gardener said it was just scrub/random trees. We were furious at the audacity of the woman. Turns out that EN thought she was entitled to have a view on the Mont Blanc as, since she moved in few years after us, she never got a chance to see the landscape due to our trees. Like EN bought her house knowing it did not have a view on the landscape, but thought after 10 years of having our trees it is time to cut them down. We tried to hear some more from EN's gardener because the guy obviously went on our property when we were not there and cut down an old oak tree without our consent. He said that EN told him we have been neighbors for so long that she had our consent to take it down. I wish I could say we have some sort of revenge or even got it replaced, but to buy a full-size tree is really expensive. The best we accomplished was to have her give us a bit of money to buy another tree. I would like to remember that even though we didn't have enough to buy another oak, we bought a tree with even more branches. Edit, thanks a lot for the replies guys. For those of you asking/wondering, a few years after this incident my parents got divorced, we moved out of the house and sold it. At the time, we thought it was more valuable to try to keep a decent relationship with our neighbors instead of trying to sue the EN. To be fair, it was the only time EN crossed the border, otherwise she was just a bit crazy, but nothing too serious. And guys, I would love to hear what would you do if your neighbor would trespass on your property and cut down an old tree on your property? Would you try to sue the neighbor? Let us know in the comments. EW needs this house. Over the past couple of months, I've been looking at rental properties in anticipation of moving. I have to be out of my current house by October due to the landlord wanting to demolish my current rental house to build apartments on the land. Yesterday, I went to an open house to view a rental property. I discussed it with my partner. We both agreed we loved the house and wanted to fill in an application for the property. The cast is RA, real estate agent, EW entitled woman, and me. I head up to the real estate agent and ask her how we go about applying for the property and ask a few general questions about the property. This is what happened. Me, so how do I apply for the property? Real estate agent, well, you can grab one of these forms or apply online. How many people over 18 will be living in the house? Me, just 2, my partner and myself. The real estate agent gets her clipboard and takes 2 forms of it and hands them to me. RA, So just fill out the forms and bring them back into the office with your ID and payslips. At this point EW storms up to us and snatches the forms out of my hand. EW:
I need these. I'm going to apply for this house.
RA: okay, well, I do have more forms available. She gets another 2 and goes to hand them to me. EW snatches them out of her hand as well.
No, she's not applying for this house. I'm applying for this house.
The RA looks confused. RA: ma'am, more than one person can apply and then we send the forms to the owner and they can pick who they want to rent the house to. EW shrieks:
no one can apply for this house other than me. I need this house. I need it. No one else can apply for it.
RA: ma'am, I'm fairly certain anyone looking at this house probably needs it too. If you fill out an application, I will send it on to the owner with the rest. EW still yelling:
I've already applied for 6 houses and no one will rent to me because someone wrote on my rental ledger that I damaged their house. I need this house more than anyone else here. No one else can apply, so the owner will have to rent to me.
RA: okay ma'am, fill out an application and I will send it on to the owner. EW smugly says
okay,
clearly thinking she has won, and takes her forms. EW:
you can finish the open house if you want, but make it clear this house has already been leased and don't hand out any application forms for my house.
She leaves. The real estate agent and I exchange a look and start laughing. RA: here is 2 more application forms. I've heard about this woman. She has applied through our agency a couple of times. Apparently she did over $2,000 worth of damage to the last 2 properties she rented, and our agency does not even send her application onto the owner because she's so difficult to deal with. She will be lucky to find anyone willing to rent her a house. Anyway, send your application form through when it is completed and we will forward it to the owner. Me: thank you. I hope you don't have to deal with any more crazy people. The real estate agent laughs and I leave with my application forms. As I am going back to my car, I see EW walking towards me screaming that I need to give her the application forms in my hand. I jump in my car, lock the doors and drive off. It was a crazy experience. And guys, if you have watched until here, I would really appreciate it if you could post some star emojis in the comments and also maybe even like the video if you enjoy my content. Thank you so much in advance. I really appreciate that you go the extra mile to support me. It really means the world to me. And the final story is titled EM ruins park property and gets karma for it. I used to do part-time volunteer work for a local park. It was pretty basic stuff like picking up trash and light security, which was just making sure that people are not damaging the park property or to report anything shady going on. This park was fairly big and had a jungle gym in the back of it behind the wall of trees. One day I noticed that there are tire marks in the grass right where a turn of the back is. It is fairly easy to make that turn and doesn't come out of nowhere or anything, so I don't know why someone would go through the grass. Also keep in mind it was very muddy and cold, so the tire marks were pretty much cemented in after the grass was ran over. I call my supervisor and they say that we will fix that area when it gets a little warmer out, which it was going to be later that week. A couple days later, when I am near the front of the park patrolling, I notice a minivan coming up from the back of the park. It goes right through the same area of the grass that was previously ran over. I couldn't believe I just witnessed it happen. The turn does not come out of nowhere and you can clearly see that going straight out will take you through the grass. I start jogging towards the van, waving my arms to get the driver's attention. She stops and rolls down her window, wearing thick sunglasses, and looked at me confused at first. She also had 2 kids in the back. EM:
what?
Excuse me miss, I'm one of the park workers. You drove straight through the grass back there. With how muddy it is right there, the grass gets damaged very easily. EM:
okay.
She clearly didn't care and shocked me a bit that she didn't apologize about it. Me: well, the grass is going to need to be put back down. I understand if it was a mistake, but please be more careful when coming out from the back. I can tell she's giving me a dirty look even with her giant sunglasses covering most of her face. EM:
whatever,
she says rudely and drives out towards the van after I say thanks and back away from the van. Fast forward a couple days, me and my supervisor had finished flattening the dirt and putting down new seed for that area in the morning. I was pretty happy with how it turned out, and the grass would look better than it did before once it grew. Later that day, when I come back to patrol the park, I noticed the same minivan in the back parking lot. I head over to the jungle gym area, and of course I see the entitled mom on a bench looking at her phone while her kids are playing. I was hoping in the back of my mind that she would have listened to me yesterday, but judging from how she acted, I was doubtful. I did a couple walks around the back area, making sure there wasn't any trash, and when I saw her tell the kids it was time to go, I sprinted towards the front of the park entrance, stand in front of a car at the front, and put my own pair of sunglasses on. I keep them in a fanny pack along with some medical supplies and my phone, so that she wouldn't recognize me and stay on the path, like how you slow down on the road when passing a police officer. Once her van starts coming up, I am watching in disbelief as once again she doesn't turn and goes right through the same area again that we had just fixed up this morning. I was pissed now. I walk up to her van, this time being in the middle of the pavement, and she stops when I approach her, rolling down her window and giving me an annoyed look that I stopped her again. EM:
Oh my god, what do you want?
Me: Miss, you ran over that area again. We had finished fixing it this morning and you just ran it over.
So? It's just some damn grass. You should just make that whole area pavement so it won't get ran over.
You can clearly see that the grass is in front of you when you drive up from the back area. It doesn't come out of nowhere, and we have never had anyone run over that area. Only you. I had a frustrated tone in my voice, but was still trying to be polite. Her kids in the back were glued to their tablets and were not paying any mind to me other than when they heard their mom swear. They look to be around 6 or 8, I think. She gives me one more nasty look before rolling up her window and driving away. Did not even respond to my last point. Also, she almost ran over my foot since she didn't want to wait for me to back away from her van before driving off. That was my tipping point. I call my supervisor again and tell him what happened. I could tell he was pretty pissed over the phone, but said that he had a plan to stop that area from getting ran over anymore. I meet him on Friday morning and he has this giant boulder in the back of his pickup truck. I instantly knew what we were going to be doing with it. After some work getting it done, digging up the dirt and wedging it into place, we finished putting the boulder in. I had to admit that it made me sad that there was now this eyesore of a rock there and all our work previously was for nothing, but I was happy the entitled mom would not be running over that area anymore. Later that day, I am in the back picking up trash when I see the same minivan pull into the parking lot. I know it's the entitled mom and her kids because I remember their license plate this time. I pay no mind to them, know that she couldn't run over the grass again when they leave now. Later on, I was cleaning some bird poop off a statue when I heard a loud crash sound that came from the front. I run over to where it came from, shocked as I see the entitled mother's van with the giant boulder we put down wedged between her tire and the bumper of her car. She gets out of the van in shock at what happened, swearing and shouting. I personally didn't want to damage her car, just realized she couldn't drive through the grass anymore, so I did feel some guilt at seeing the giant boulder wedged in her car. I came over to the other side to see that the wheel was off the ground slightly and the front bumper wedged atop the boulder. I don't know how she even managed that, honestly. She sees me and immediately gets a look of pure concentrated anger.
You!
She starts walking up to me, stomping her feet.
You put that rock there, didn't you, a-hole?
Me: Miss, my supervisor brought that boulder in this morning for that spot because you were running over the grass. I don't know how you even hit it, since again you can clearly see it coming from the back. EM:
I was texting my friend, you a-hole. You're going to pay for this damage.
Yeah, I don't think so. She fumes and heads back to her car. She has her 2 kids get out and go sit at a nearby table, both still playing on their tablets. EM though got back in the car and is on the phone. A few minutes later, she tells me she called the police and that I'm going to be arrested for intentionally damaging her property. I admit I was a bit worried at what story she gave them, probably wasn't the truth, so I called my supervisor again. He got here even before the police did. I saw him laughing as he pulled up and saw the situation. He walks up to the entitled mom and explains who he is, and she starts yelling at him about how she's going to sue and have him and myself arrested for the damage. A few minutes later the police pull up. She tells them that we intentionally put that rock there to damage her car. But we explained to the officers that she had driven over that grass several times even after we had fixed it, and we put that boulder down to keep her and others from driving through the grass. The police got some more info from us and told the entitled mom that we were in the right to put the boulder down and are not liable for her poor driving. EM, frustrated, tells her kids to get back in the car and actually starts to back out of the boulder. My supervisor, the officers and I all watch as the boulder is scraping up the bottom of her car as she backs out. Once off it, her front bumper slams on the pavement and is now hanging down off the left side. Something under her car was also touching the pavement, which was apparent as she started to drive away and the sound of something scraping against the road could be heard. The officers stop her and tell her that her car is now not safe to drive on the road and she needs to get it towed. My supervisor and I went home shortly after, smiling and laughing at what had happened that day. I can safely assume now she won't be going over that grass anymore. And the next one is titled, Entitled Neighbor Gets in Trouble with Police After Taking Pictures of 7-year-old for Evidence. This happened some years ago, so I may get some details wrong and I will definitely be paraphrasing. Backstory: I lived in a small town in England, about an hour and a half from London, and had lived there since I was born. There's a kind of gravel walking path / trail outside of my house that is lined with ditches. These ditches were fun to play in and play hide and seek whenever a friend came over. I was around 7 or 8 at the time. One of our neighbors lived on our street and had a clear view of the ditch, and they were known to be grumpy old bats, at least the mother / woman. I did not know about the husband or if they had kids. So the cast was OP, me, S for sister, D for dad, EB for entitled Karen. So onto the story. One day, me and my sister, around 12 or 13, went to play in the ditch. We had brought a tent and kind of played pretend camping. We had toy swords / lightsabers, I cannot remember which ones we brought out, and were slashing at the grass / plants, etc., acting like we were cutting away foliage in our way in the depth of the jungle. In comes EB. EB,
Hey, what are you two doing?
S, very confused. We're just playing. EB,
What are you doing to the plants? You're destroying them.
We really were not doing much to the plant and there was plenty of vegetation, so one plant would not be much, even though we were doing basically nothing to it anyway. Although I will admit it would be better for us to not do that. EB totally overreacted and completely blew up. We decided to ignore her and get on with what we were doing until, lo and behold, here she comes again. Her cat had come out and came towards us, so naturally we gave it a little pet. It was no harm at all and the cat was fine with it, so we did not see a problem. EB, however, did. EB,
Don't you touch my cat or you are coming in.
Points towards her front door. This is the only part which I can remember her saying fully. This was the point where I got sort of scared. I was wondering what she meant to do if we came in and why it was such a big deal, but nevertheless we sort of ignored her and got back to what we were doing. A while passes and we have not heard from Entitlement for Brains in a while when suddenly my sister notices something. S, is she taking pictures of us? I turn around and I see it. This girl is taking pictures of children without permission. At the time I was obviously thinking this was wrong, but if that happened now when I am older, I would have been so pissed. S, come on OP, we need to go tell dad. So we walk back to our house and find D. We tell him the story of how we were playing and how she yelled at us and threatened to take us in and most of all take pictures of minors without permission. Now, I am not well educated in law, but I would like to think it is illegal to take pictures of people without permission in England, even more so for children. Anyway, my dad gets mad, he tells us to go outside and just go play again and to just ignore EB. We do what he says. I now know that after that he gets the police to come, not sure if it was 99.9 or otherwise, but nevertheless the police are on their way. And what's this? Breaking news? EB is at the window taking pictures again? EB is taking effing more pictures? This time D is at our window keeping an eye on us and he sees this. Cue shouting match. Dad? Hey, what on earth do you think you're doing? EB's face goes white. EB?
They are not supposed to be there.
I'm paraphrasing, that's why the dialogue is crap. Dad? They have every right to be there and you have no right to take pictures of them. EB?
But they are breaking the plans.
Dad? I will have you know, the police are on their way. So time passes and I see the police arrive. We go back inside whilst D and the police deal with EB. Eventually my dad comes back inside and tells us it has all been dealt with. After a while EB moves out and I grow up. I remember the story and ask my dad what happened with the police. He says the police made EB delete the pictures and if anything like that happened again, there would be severe consequences. I kinda wish she got those consequences because she definitely deserved them, but I like to think she at least learned her lesson. We never got in trouble for playing in the bushes after all. And the next one is titled, Was annoyed with the neighbor until I benefited from his petty revenge. 7 PM last night and my neighbor decides he's going to get out his backpack leaf blower and work on the leaves in his yard. It is dark, it had been drizzling earlier, what the F is he working on trying to blow wet leaves around? I was starting to get a little annoyed because I was trying to enjoy dinner while watching TV. That was until I heard a knock on my door. It was my neighbor asking me to move my car out of the street into the driveway for a minute and in return he would blow all of the leaves off my front lawn for me. This is when he tells me that his stepson was supposed to hand rake their leaves earlier that day before he left for work. Guess the kid mouthed off again. He makes the kid do yard work when he's in trouble and my neighbor gets home and sees that the leaves are not done. Pissed, he grabs his leaf blower and proceeds to blow all the leaves from the yard into the street in the spot where his stepson parks his car in front of the house. He realizes that he does not have enough leaves, however, the tree in my front yard decided to carpet my front lawn with leaves that day. This is when he knocks on my door. He got rid of the leaves on my front lawn and the leaves on my other neighbor's front lawn and added them to the pile on the street. He then had me move my car back into its original spot, which was on one end of the leaf pile, and parked his work truck on the other end of the leaf pile. Also, his stepson would have to park down the block and do a walk of shame home. And the next one is titled, My ex-friend and neighbor gets what is coming to him. First, a little background. About 6 years ago, I moved into my current house in a great neighborhood. I work from home when I am not traveling, and it is a great spot in a nice part of town and near everything. When I first moved in, one of the ladies on my street came over to introduce herself and was getting quite frisky with me. I was told by other folks that she was this way with everyone and that she was totally harmless. I will admit that this disappointed me because I thought she was pretty hot. Anyway, her husband and I became buddies and we would occasionally golf together and I became a part of their group of friends. I was invited to many family get-togethers even though I am single and I got along great with all of the wives and kids. She was always hinting and flirting around with me and to be honest, I loved it. Her husband and I work in similar fields and the company that I work for acquired his company about 3 years ago. Unbeknownst to me, he got slightly demoted and lost a bit of salary and for some reason he thinks that I had something to do with it, but I didn't. It was not in my field and I actually don't even know any of the people that reorganized his unit. He asked me to help him and unfortunately I couldn't. He decided to take it out on me personally. Golf games started happening without me. Cookouts and local outings went on and I did not get invited. Oh well, if he wants to be that way, there's nothing I can do about it, and then he upped the ante. He tried to get me fired. My boss came to me about some anonymous source that says I was doing some illegal things and potentially making our company liable. I was forced to see a psychologist and pass numerous drug tests to stay out in the field doing sales. Needless to say, I knew who the source was, I confronted him about it, and he denied the entire thing with a smirk on his face. So that is when the revenge plan started. Not knowing which way to turn, I decided that I did not want to cause him to lose his job. I could not figure out a way to do it anyway, since we are not in the same division. After a year or so, I completely forgot about it until about 10 days ago. I ran into his wife after she had been at church, and she was dressed to kill. She totally flirted me up and was hitting on me brazenly right in the grocery. So I decided to fire back. I told her that if she showed up at my house the next morning around 10 AM in that dress and those heels, that I could not control what happened next. Guess who showed up at 9:30 the next morning? The wife wearing the same dress and heels. When I let her in the house, it was like unleashing a wild animal. She ended up staying for a couple of hours, and there was not a way that did not have her. Since then, she has been over twice more, but things will get a little more sporadic since school is out and she has responsibilities now during the day. Try and cost me my job, and I will get you back. And guys, unfortunately, we have already reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and if you haven't already, please also go to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where I upload exclusive Reddit videos starting at just $3 a month. This is a great way to support me in case you are interested, and the chance for me to become independent from YouTube revenue. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.